using targeting, approaching different targets related to different pathways of aging would be very promising for extension of life. And in that approach, we used a Drosophila model, quite a simple model for aging studies, and we combined different how to close this?
Yeah, underneath 100. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Combined approaching these targets, PI3K, mTOR, and FKB, and INOS, to try to extend the lifespan in Drosophila. And we observed that combination of inhibitors of these targets, in some cases, provide us the synergistic or additive effects in life extension. For example, the most obvious effect we achieved by combination of rapamycin and workmannin. Rapamycin is the inhibitor of mTOR, and workmannin is the inhibitor of PI3K. It was published 10 years ago. Professor Jan Gruber, approximately 5 years ago, showed that in C. elegans model, it could be also possible to reach synergistic effect of combination of inhibitor of TGF-beta and EGF-1 signaling. And then Professor Linda Partridge in Drosophila model also have shown that a triple drug combination targeting PI3K and RS pathway extended synergistically the lifespan in this model. And last year we published a paper where we used the combination of several approaches, including the genotype and also combination of 3 geroprotectors and the caloric restriction and the darkness condition to achieve the maximum extension of the lifespan in Drosophila as a model. Before our experiment, the maximum lifespan on Drosophila was less than 180 days, but we extended up to 213 days. This is our transcriptomic data analysis at this experiment, and we observed that long-living flies, in the case of combinations, they have some specific alterations in epigenetic processes, lipid metabolism, cellular respiration, nutrient sensing, immune response, and autophagy that are previously were related to longevity in different models and in humans as well. In mice model, the combinatorial approach was not so successful. The first attempt was made by Andrzej Bartke, who combined the genotype, the knockout of receptor of growth hormone in mice with a caloric restriction, but failed to additionally extend the lifespan in such combination. But it is well known that these pathways are very related between each other. The next trial was made by Stefan Spindler, who did a huge experiment of cross-sectional studying of commercial nutraceutical combinations that showed us potential health enhancers for human in mice in isocaloric conditions, and also failed to extend the lifespan in this model using these combinations of minerals, botanical extracts, vitamins that are very presented on the market nowadays. And very recently, the huge group of colleagues, for example, Rich Miller, very well known in mice studying besom, they combined rapamycin with acarbose. Acarbose decrease the glycemic load and glycemic index of the diet, and rapamycin is a well-known geroprotector inhibitor of mTOR, and in combination of these two compounds resulted in very promising life-extending effect in mice, depending on the age of start of the combination. In the case of 9 months, they achieved about 30% life extension after combination. Since 16 months, they observed twice less effect, but still obvious, and in both genders, both in males and females. Of course, we know the talk of Aubrey, who started the experiment of also combinatorial approach in mice using senolytics, hematopoietic stem cells, and rapamycin, and we hope to see the synergistic effect of this combination. I have to disclose that I'm now scientific director of a new startup, Israeli UK company, Longibus, and we started last year the mouse pilot experiment with a combination of two compounds. Because this data belongs to the company, I could not share the name of these compounds, but we injected mice for 1 month, every 3 days, by combination of specific inhibitors of particular targets, and observed and applied phenotyping, including neurological status, body weight, and also appearance changes with age in this group of mice. And also, after the end of the experiment, we collected blood samples and tissues from different organs to look at the effectiveness of this combination. After 1 month's injection, you could see that in control group there are several obvious baldness in mice, but much fewer phenotypic changes in experimental group. After 7 weeks of experiment, we could see developed kyphosis in control group animals. We used a dozen parameters of neurological status. It's a kind of frailty index for cognitive behavior in a mice model. And this score shown us that the speed of aging according to this parameter in a control group is quite obvious. You could see the correlation between the parameter and the age, but in the experimental group, we could not see any age dependency of this parameter. Like aging speed is 0 in the experimental group. And the 1 month injection rejuvenated mice for approximately 75 days. It is important to note that we used very old mice, about 20 months old at the start of the experiment. After we are going to calculate the histological data and also blood parameters, including inflammatory cytokines. And based on the results, we propose to study this combination on neurodegeneration model in mice. For example, or in rats, vascular dementia, which is incurable disease. That's why we decided to use this indication. We also have a much longer list of potential combinations for the future experiments. We selected 29 interventions and 10 different combinations, including small molecules, aptamers, recombinant proteins, gene therapies, lifestyle interventions. And we are looking for collaborators to do such huge experiments in the future. I presented you some positive synergistic results, but according to the very recent review published in Aging Research Reviews, most of combinatory studies in different models were failed. You could see in the red that these trials were failed, not in our experiments, in experiments of many colleagues. And at the end, I would like to thank our company, my laboratory, and also collaborators who will be involved in these studies. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Just a second. Sorry, wait for my.
I have a question regarding survival curves. Is it like still ongoing, or you have some survival curves that you can show us? And also for the controls, I assume you also had controls for like those things separately, so you could prove that combination was synergistic.
Yeah, it's a very good question. According to our mice experiment, we decided to stop the experiment because mice were very, very old at the start of the experiment, and after 3 months of experiment, we ceased it. Because as a company, we are looking for some beneficial effects to go into clinical and then hopefully to clinical stages. And that's why we decided not extend the experiment up to the dying of these mice. And now, in 2 months, we will start the new pilot experiment with these compounds, where we will apply separately each compound to mice and also combination. And we will use also neurological parameters as endpoints, not the lifespan. I absolutely agree with the Didier, with you, that we need to radically extend the lifespan in mammalian model, but it's very costly for startup to do such experiments. But in collaboration with the universities, of course, we could share our knowledge and our other combinations to do such kind of experiments. Maybe we could do with the Healy Foundation or other foundations these kind of experiments. Thank you. Okay, next speaker.